Exploring space has been considered the new frontier for humanity, and SpaceX has been continuously at the top of the ladder when it comes to moving the borders of what seems possible when it comes to space exploration. The SpaceX Dragon 1 was a showcase of the company's willingness and dedication to conquer space. Its vastly superior successor, the SpaceX Dragon 2, continues this tradition and amplifies it even further. Get ready to get your mind blown as we take a peek inside SpaceX's all-new Dragon capsule. What makes the original Dragon so important? The essential importance of the Dragon capsule and the entire Dragon program can be traced back to the late 2000s when SpaceX was still in its infancy. The Apollo program had long been retired, and the overall future for space exploration was looking very grim, as NASA had no alternatives when it came to commercial space travel and exploration. SpaceX was, during this period, working on their famed Falcon 9, and parallel to that, they've also been developing a spiritual successor to both the Apollo spacecraft and the Space Shuttle itself. They've been looking for a middle ground that would utilize the benefits of both spacecraft types without inheriting any of their crucial flaws. And in 2010, when the first generation of the SpaceX Dragon became operation as a supply ship for the ISS, and it continued to perform that function for the next 10 years. How did the second generation come to be? After its initial supply run, SpaceX continued using the first generation of the Dragon for 22 more supply missions, which managed to prove that the Dragon was a dependable spacecraft. The Dragon was so good, in fact, that the development of the second generation started shortly after its initial release, and by 2014, the extensive testing of the prototype had begun. After 5 long years of perfecting the spacecraft, Dragon 2 completed its first successful flight, and only a year later, on May 30th, 2020, the spacecraft became the first American spacecraft to carry a crew into orbit since the Space Shuttle's retirement back in 2011. This monumental achievement marked the retirement of Dragon 1 and the adoption of its successor. What are the Dragon 2's key features? Starting from the outside, the Dragon 2 is composed of 2 main parts, the capsule and the trunk section. The capsule itself has a single mechanical hatch at the top, which serves as a docking port or a window, depending on if you're using the Dragon 2 as a hauler or as a minibus. The side of the capsule also has a hatch that allows the crew to enter and exit the spacecraft when on Earth. From the inside, you'd actually be pleasantly surprised at the sheer space that the Dragon 2 has to offer, especially compared to the Apollo capsules, which were as comfortable as being stuffed in a can of sardines, which was the product of their extremely small size. Thankfully, the Dragon 2 is way more spacious, and its noticeably larger size, standing in at a height of 16 feet and a width of 14, granted a considerably more comfortable interior, therefore making it a very pleasant place to spend time in, especially since SpaceX worked hard on making the creature comforts as prominent as possible. Not to mention that the interior is very modern, as absolutely every command that you have under your fingertips will be commanded from a touchscreen. Yeah, we know, touchscreens are not cutting edge these days. However, when comparing the Dragon 2 to the Boeing Starliner, which was developed at the same time as SpaceX's capsule, you'd be surprised to see that the latter keeps using regular analog controls that are just a nightmare to remember and use. Finally, let's not forget about the fact that if you need to go potty, you'll need an actual vacuum suction-powered toilet at your disposal, similar to the one found on the ISS, which means that you won't need to, soil yourself if you ever feel your prostate giving up on you. The trunk section adds another 12 feet to the overall height of the spacecraft, and it serves as both the main source of power for the Dragon and then, as the name shockingly suggests, the main storage compartment for all your unpressurized cargo. The 2 parts can be disassembled remotely if there's ever a need for that. However, most of the time the Dragon 2 will remain unified. What propels the Dragon 2? And finally, the most crucial component of the spacecraft, thrusters. The Dragon 2 is fairly simple in this regard, as it uses a very regular rocket propulsion system that has been seen all over the industry. In the case of the Dragon 2's capsule, there are 2 main ways of propelling the spacecraft, the first of which are the Draco thrusters. There are 16 of them, which are clustered on the body of the capsule itself, so the nozzles point out to different angles so that the capsule can be maneuvered and steered precisely and effectively. The Dragon's main engines are called Super Dracos, which are located in the ridges of the capsule, of which there are 4, and each ridge conceals 2 thrusters. Super Dracos are around 200 times more powerful than regular Draco thrusters, and they're designed to be a last-ditch propellant that shall be used only if there is a catastrophic malfunction on the rocket propellant itself, giving the capsule just enough oomph and time to escape a possibly very tragic kaboom. These were also used as a deep throttle control that allowed the Dragon to have a much more precise and less dangerous propulsive landing. However, this idea has been shelved for now in favor of a much more conventional parachute method. Overall, the Dragon 2 is most definitely one of the most advanced and most important spacecraft in the history of space exploration. And thanks to its high versatility and radically modern design, we believe that SpaceX will continue developing and using its incredible spacecraft.